Hello, everyone, and welcome to Conversations with Friends. I'm Meredith, and if you've ever watched this program, this series, then you probably already guessed that I'm really into getting to meet people and showcase people and introduce you to people who are truly bringing light into this, it just seems increasingly dark world. But what I've learned, through a lot of things that I've been involved with, has to do with the fact that there's a lot of light and there's a lot of people who are bringing light into the world. And here he is. He's bringing so much light, not just into the world, but into the lives of young people who have been in need at some point or another, or maybe earlier. And he's actually responsible with his organization for kind of making such an impact on their lives that things really start to work out for them. So meet Dr. or Chad Bernstein. He's usually called just Chad Bernstein, who is the founder, the CEO of Guitars Over Guns, which is a nonprofit that's based in Miami and also Chicago, right? And you're going to learn about some of the really, really meaningful work that they're doing in the city. Hello.
Hey,
Great to have you on
me.
the program. Thanks so much for taking the time. And they might say, I know that name, and or I've seen him. And I wanted to start out by saying, you have another job, right? Your night job, and then you have your day job. Tell us a little bit about your work as a very well-known musician in South Florida for many years with some pretty widely recognized bands.
Well, thank you very much for the warm introduction. I'm a professional musician and play in the Spam All-Stars in Swanalo. I'm a trombone player and conch shell artist and do whatever kind of needs to be done on stage. But it's been a blast. I fell in love with Miami many years ago and was kind of intoxicated by the melting pot of, the cultural melting pot of Miami, musically and otherwise. And that's kind of been a thread that's connected all of my work. So
something has really changed in Miami over the years. It is this melting pot and this continual, almost like creativity that keeps happening. And you've been responsible for it, of course, with the Spam All-Stars in Sunalo, but with Guitars Over Guns. So tell me how this connection happened, how it is that you decided you want to really create something that can improve the lives of some young people who really need it.
So it was really pretty organic. Playing with Swanalo in particular, it's a group of musicians that were really engaged in the community. They were it was a younger, newer group, and we had time, and we're doing a lot of things with friends of ours that loved the band, that were teaching and working in working in the community. And so anytime anyone needed anything musical, we just said sure and showed up and did it. And that was the case if somebody needed an instrument or needed an instrument repaired or lessons for their kid, or in this case, a friend of ours that was teaching at a juvenile detention center and asked us to come and do essentially a career day type of thing. And we said sure and showed up, and it was a pretty sobering experience to walk in and be told that we couldn't actually bring the instruments in because the strings could be used to strangle us, and some other pretty concerning warnings. And ultimately we're able to come in and bring the instruments in, but had a very definitive picture of how dangerous it was, pretty much because we were told how dangerous these kids were, and we were there because we were told they weren't able to be reached. And ultimately what happened was we tried to speak and speak to the careers that we had in music, writing and producing and publishing music and touring and making records and how all that works. And it was falling on pretty deaf and seemingly uninterested ears until we started playing. And once we started playing, the vibe in the room just completely changed. And these students went from, who the heck are you guys kind of showing up here to tell us anything, to, oh my God, how did you do that? And this kid from the back of the room shouted something out and we flipped it into a song on the spot and started improvising, and the kids were just totally taken aback and started engaging. And from there, the conversation went a million different places. And it was so clear that music was able to kind of unlock this child inside all of us. We were able to connect through whatever lines of differences. And it was an incredible experience. And it made me realize that as musicians, we have this unique ability to connect with people through whatever those lines of difference are, and see people for who they really are, not for the kind of dangerous people that we were warned that they were. So that was kind of how the concept entered my head for the first time.
It's a very interesting story to me how that happened. And it's, to me, almost like you were meant to go there, to go to this detention center and see how things were so bleak and how these young people were really in trouble, and they weren't getting helped. And so was there this feeling that, okay, you really felt that through your music, and maybe you could explain how you went on to found this nonprofit, that you could really turn their lives around, which you've done. You've done for over, the last 14 years, something like that.
Yeah, 15. Yeah, I mean, it's easy to connect the dots when you're looking backwards. In the moment, it felt very organic. I mean, we showed up, we played. And the thing that was really clear is that regardless of what was going on in the world, music has this ability to capture you in the moment and elevate you. And particularly when you're playing in a group, especially a group like Swenelo, which is so energetic, and so improvisationally based, that you're creating something spiritual when you play music, and then you're connecting that with other people, which is something that you can't do by yourself. So you're automatically kind of in this different place. Then when that exchange happens between a band and an audience, and there's this like beautiful experience that elevates both sides, who are contributing their energy to that moment, it keeps you and suspends you in this place that devoid of time and anything else that holds you in what I find to be the most spiritual place in the world. And the thought of being able to give that to somebody else, in a time when music was being taken out of all the schools, knowing, after having spoken to these young people, like why they were in there, kind of how the deck was stacked against them, and how unlikely it was for them to get out, based on the way the system works. It just felt impossible not to continue to try and pull at that thread. And it's one of those things that you can't unsee when you have an experience like that. And it just stayed with me, and prompted conversations with the people, that I care most about in my life, and just kept nagging at me as this thing that you can't not do. And so it wasn't with, obviously you have grandiose expectations and big ideas, but I think starting Guitars Over Guns was merely just like what is our responsibility to provide what we were given, which is an introduction into knowing something in music that changed all of our lives, and to have the opportunity and the mentors in our lives, each of us musicians, that helped us kind of make that path a little less scary and a little more possible. And if that's all that it was, and the time that we were working with them after school was just time that they were doing something constructive and wonderful for the kids that we were working with, that we started to work with, that was already, a big win. And after the first year, we were working with our first partner was Communities in Schools, and they incubated us, under their fiscal agency. And they came back to us and they said, they had a violence intervention grant. And so they were measuring the impact that Guitars Over Guns was having on the students. And they came back and said, 100% of these kids that were previously suspended weren't suspended, and 99% are improving their grades or attendance. I mean, the numbers were unbelievable. But it all came down to, how do we use music to create a sense of belonging, to honor and dignify people, so they can come to a space and explore who they are and feel like themselves and take chances, when the rest of the world doesn't necessarily engender that kind of courage.
Yeah, there's just something about organizations often, and I'm not talking about, organizations that are trying to do good, that sort of, I don't want to say they buy into, this myth that they can't be helped, or it's too difficult, or look where maybe, they've come from, that it's so hard to really create change. And yet, what you've done is you've just been able to say, this is not true. This is just totally not true. Do you feel in a way that you've really been able to, I want to say, maybe reach people, like many, many over the years that you've been doing this, and you actually did start a program, and now what, you started with just 15 kids, the 15 kids from the juvenile detention center, right? And now you've worked with thousands of young people, haven't you?
So yes, we have the young men in the juvenile detention center were the inspiration. The first group that we had was at North Miami Middle School, and that was about 15 students. There have been over 6,000 students that have come through the program at this point. And we'll have another 1,000 plus coming in this coming school year. It's amazing. I mean, I think the thing that's most important for us is that we're able to bring other people into the work to help reject the narrative that these students are anything but the most promising leaders that our country needs for tomorrow. I mean, we have serious, there's a serious disparity in the way that people are treated in our country, and I think it's important that we acknowledge that. And music is one of those ways that we can address and bring people in a way that dignifies people, and not in a way that just calls attention in such an unfortunate way that the news so often does, to paint a story and have it be all about the challenges and the disparities and the negativity. But the reality is that these are incredible human beings with infinite potential, and they're resilient. Our students are incredibly resilient and creative and courageous. And like, if you're asking me who I want, to lead the next kind of version of where we go, it's our young people for sure.
That has to be just an amazing feeling for you, to be able to say, look, how they started, with all the problems that they've had to carry with them, again, just because of circumstances, bad circumstances, right? And how you have been able to, just through nurturing them and teaching them. And what would you say the main message that you give to these young people? Because I think probably some of them might come in, or do you select all of them as well for your programs now? Because you have a lot of programs going now.
Yeah, the main message to them and to everyone else is that these are not kids that need your help. These are full, whole human beings that need to be seen that way, and need to be given equitable opportunities to live that potential. And I think that's, if there's anything that I wish we could change, it's the way that we look at people. And there's so many factors systemically that exert themselves on the conditions that make it really challenging for people to get ahead. That's really where the energy needs to be focused, not on feeling sorry for people, but on changing the outcomes, because we're changing the set of opportunities that they have.
So, I mean, that's the key, what you just said, seeing them in a different light, seeing them, as you say, as whole human beings with so much potential. And I just want to share something that, I got to meet, one of your musicians a few weeks ago, was something that I'm, very active with. I told you, the Peace Studio, and Rody LaFrance, right, is a guitarist who was chosen to be part of a group of young people, artists, not just musical artists, visual artists, actors,
creatives,
writers. And so he was chosen to participate in a program where they would be able to think about their lives, their work, as well as how they can impact the world. So at the celebration of what they went through over 2 days, we started to talk. I just happened to talk with him after seeing him perform, and I was amazed. We're going to see him right now. I was amazed. And he said to me, he said that your program and you, Chad, changed his life, that if it weren't for you, he wouldn't be where he is today. And that, I mean, I was just so touched by that. And I realized, you know, that work like this is just, it's not just important, is it? It's beyond important. It's urgent. Like you said, the way this world is going, this work is urgent. Do you ever feel like you just want to keep expanding this and reaching every young person out there?
Yeah, I mean, we're trying to, and I'm honored that Rudy said that, and he knows this because I've told him as many times, you know, but he's changed my life as well. I mean, I think that the reality is, we're not in the business of changing people. We're in the business of changing opportunities.
Beautifully said. And I know, again, you know, that you just continue to make more effort and bring more people into this way of seeing and this way of living. And I'm sure that there's more to come with you, right? I'm sure you'll just keep going and expanding. And you've got a lot of people that are supporting you. You were even a CNN Hero of the Year. You were in People magazine. So people are seeing what you do. And do you ever feel, and then I know we have to go because you know, you've got lots of things to do and you're on a deadline, but do you ever feel that maybe that there'll be other organizations that will take this on, like schools, and because you can't do it all, or maybe you can, you know, just that this will be a way of thinking in our society?
Yeah, we certainly can't do it all, and nobody can. And I think the best thing that we can do is create a collective understanding amongst our organization, all the other phenomenal organizations that are doing work in the community. I mean, it's that there is an abundance effect that happens when we work collaboratively, and you know, the more people that are acting thoughtfully in this space and learning from each other, the better off we'll be. You know, in the richest nation in the world, it's a shame that we have some of the challenges that we have, but it also means that we're well resourced to deal with them. So I'm hopeful. You know, the best thing that could happen to us is to go out of business. So you know, we're actively working towards creating better outcomes for people, but it's really just, you know, kind of by providing the resources and getting out of their way. We've all had mentors that we can look back on and acknowledge the impact that they've had on our life. And what makes me proudest is to watch the impact that all these professional musicians in our community are having on these young people. So that's, you know, certainly more to come. We've got a big event in October, a big fundraiser in October. There's always ways to get involved, and please follow Guitars Over Guns on social media. But please continue to help support organizations, ours included, that are doing good work in the community, because there are gaps, and we're here to fill them. And hopefully, you know, we can continue to grow this work and reach more young people.
So Chad Bernstein, if anybody is out there and they want to help, they want to participate, whatever it is that they can do, they can find you on your website, right?
Yes, guitarsoverguns.org.
Yeah, .org. And I'm sure there'll be some place for them, whether it's a musician or someone that wants to donate or somebody that wants to help out. You never know. You never know who's out there feeling, gee, you know, I need something in my life to give me purpose. And I am sure that you feel great getting up every single day, knowing what you're doing. And that's, to me, the key to being happy, when you're serving others and doing something, not just for yourself in your own life. And I did just want to end with saying that on your bio, and then we're going to also end with, once we're finished here in 1 second, we will end with a little piece with Rody and
Rudy,
with
yeah.
you. Yes, Rudy. I'm sorry. I know
Kenzie
LaFrance
is his artist name. So
his artist name, Kenzie LaFrance.
That's where you can find him on Instagram. So follow at Kenzie LaFrance.
Okay, so yeah, they can look for him too, and they're going to see him right now as we leave. But I just wanted to read one thing about Chad. I asked for his bio, which I always do, and it says, Dr. Chad Bernstein is a husband and father of 4 amazing kids. Then it says co-founder, CEO of Guitars Over Guns, and a professional musician, and it goes on and on. But what a beautiful thing. A husband and father of 4 amazing kids. To be able to put that on your bio, I don't think I've ever seen that, you know? And that
It's
says,
first for a
again,
reason.
something about you. That's your, I don't want to say your greatest accomplishment, but it probably is. I think as parents, we want to believe that our kids are our great accomplishments, or they've actually accomplished it sometimes, on their own too. But it's a pleasure to get to interview you. And thanks so much for taking the time, and continued success with the work that you do.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks, Chad.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
I've never met anybody that doesn't like some form of music. So what's important? Is it the music, or is it what it's doing to you? For me, it's what it's doing to you, and more importantly, what it's doing for these kids. And if that's through pop music, that's through pop music. I think the most important thing is that you can give no matter what you have. You can give. And you don't need to be rich with a lot of money. You're always in a position to help people. How many people spend $5 on a cup of Starbucks coffee? Because it's really not about the money. It's just about being open and receptive to the opportunity to help another person.
Oh, I messed up, sorry. Okay. Start over.